There is a toilet on the accommodation deck of an offshore platform. White bowl, plastic seat, a button set into the wall instead of a handle. Someone presses that button 90 miles from the nearest land. Where does it actually go? The short answer is that it goes into the sea. The short answer is also almost completely wrong. Between that button and the water there is a small industrial plant. There is also a chemical test, a logbook, and a set of rules. Those rules were written by people who have never been offshore. What happens in that gap tells you more about daily life on a rig than the drill floor ever will. Start with how much of it there is. A platform makes its own fresh water. It has to. On many installations, planners commonly work to somewhere between 100 and 200 liters per person per day. That is drinking water, cooking water, showers, laundry, and everything used to clean a kitchen that runs 24 hours. Now put 200 people on a steel structure in open ocean. The arithmetic gets uncomfortable fast. Because every liter that arrives at a tap has to leave somewhere. And it does not all leave the same way. Offshore, the water that leaves is split into two legally separate problems. The first is what comes out of the toilets. In the permits, it is called sanitary waste. The second is everything else. Galley sink, shower drain, laundry, the mop bucket on the deck. That is called domestic waste, and it is a different substance with different rules. Two streams, two sets of paperwork, on a structure with less floor space than a small supermarket, which raises the obvious question, who runs any of this? On a lot of rigs, nobody is hired to. There is rarely a wastewater specialist offshore. The plant belongs to somebody who already has another job, a mechanic, a utility hand, sometimes just whoever the maintenance supervisor decided had the spare hours in his shift. He goes down to the plant deck once or twice a day, the same way he checks a pump or a compressor. It is one line on a long list. Follow him down, and the first thing you notice is the noise. On many modern installations, the toilets are not gravity toilets, they are vacuum toilets. That button on the wall does not release a tank of water. It opens a valve, and the pressure difference does the work. That is why the sound is so violent and so short. It is also why the pipes running through the accommodation are narrow. Vacuum systems move waste through pipes about the width of a wrist, not the width of a thigh. There is a practical reason for that, and it has nothing to do with plumbing elegance. Water is expensive out there. A gravity flush uses several liters every time. Multiply that by 200 people and a 12-hour shift. You are now producing thousands of liters of sewage a day. All of it out of fresh water you had to manufacture yourself. A vacuum system cuts that dramatically. The rig is not being modern. The rig is being cheap with the one resource it cannot buy. Everything from those pipes arrives in the same place. A holding tank, and before or inside it, a macerator. A macerator is exactly what it sounds like. A grinder. It reduces everything that arrives into a slurry with no recognizable pieces in it. It is the least glamorous machine on a platform worth $1 billion. When it jams because of things that were never meant to go down a toilet. Every person who has ever worked on one has a list. None of the lists are short. So the tank is full. Now what? Now the rig has to make it legal. In the Gulf of Mexico, discharges from offshore oil and gas facilities run under a general permit issued by the Environmental Protection Agency. And the permit does something that sounds strange at first. It sorts platforms by how many people live on them. A facility continuously manned for 30 or more consecutive days by 10 or more persons sits in one category. A facility manned by 9 or fewer, or manned only now and then, sits in another. The waste is identical, the rules are not. The number of bunks that are full decides which paragraph applies to your sewage. For the crowded platforms, the ones with a galley and a laundry and 150 people, the requirements get specific. The tank is not a tank, it is a treatment plant. On larger installations, it is usually a biological system, sometimes called a Type 2 device in the marine world. Air is blown continuously through a chamber, and bacteria already present in the waste do the work. They consume it. The plant is not a container, it is a colony, and the colony has to be kept alive. That single fact explains a lot of offshore behavior that looks irrational from the outside. Strong chemicals kill bacteria, so do certain cleaning products. So does a sudden slug of anything from the galley that the colony has never seen. On many rigs, the rules about which cleaner goes down which drain are not housekeeping preferences. They exist because somebody once poured the wrong thing away and killed the plant, and the plant took days to recover. During those days, everything gets worse, and everybody notices. Then the treated water leaves. But before it leaves, someone has to prove it is clean. And this is where the job stops being mechanical. Once a day, in daylight, somebody has to walk to the rail near the discharge point and look at the sea. That is the requirement. Not a sensor, not an alarm on a screen in the control room. A human being, in daylight, standing at the edge of a structure 100 feet above the water, watching the surface below the outfall. He is looking for one thing: floating solids. Under the permit, no floating solids may be discharged. The check is made by eye, in the vicinity of the sanitary waste outfall. It happens while there is still light to see by. Think about that for a moment. Once a day, on every crowded platform in that permit area, a man leans on a handrail and stares down at the ocean. From a helicopter, he looks like a worker taking a break. He is not taking a break. He is performing a regulatory inspection with his eyes, and if he sees something, he has to write it down. Because there is a second check, and that one is chemical. The treated water is disinfected with chlorine. The permit sets a target for what is left in the water afterwards. It is called total residual chlorine. The minimum is 1 milligram per liter, held as close to that number as the plant can manage. Once a month, a grab sample is taken, and the concentration is recorded. So once a month, the man with the other full-time job walks down with a small bottle. He fills it at the sample point. He adds a reagent. The water turns a shade of pink, and he reads the shade against a scale. That reading goes into a record. The record does not stay on the rig. And here is the part almost nobody outside the industry knows. Sewage is only half of it. The other half is everything that does not go down a drain. Under the international rules for garbage at sea, fixed and floating platforms are treated more harshly than ships, much more harshly. The discharge of garbage into the sea from a fixed or floating platform is prohibited, not restricted, prohibited. And the prohibition reaches outward. It applies to any other vessel that is alongside the platform, or within 500 meters of it. A supply boat that could legally have discharged something an hour ago cannot discharge it once it ties up. The rules changed because of where the boat parked. There is exactly one exception, and it is narrow: food waste. It may go into the sea only if the platform is more than 12 nautical miles from the nearest land, and only if the waste has first been passed through a comminutor or grinder. The ground food has to be capable of passing through a screen with openings no greater than 25 millimeters. 25 millimeters, about an inch. That is the entire legal difference between disposal and an offense, which means the food grinder in a rig galley is not a convenience appliance. It is compliance equipment. When it breaks, the food waste does not become a nuisance. It becomes cargo. It has to be bagged, chilled, stored, and logged, then sent back to shore on a boat. And everything else was always going back anyway. Every plastic wrapper, every drink can, every torn glove, every empty tube of sealant, every roll of tape, every ruined coverall. It goes into skips on the pipe deck. The skips get craned onto a supply boat. The boat carries them 100 miles to a quay, where somebody who has never seen the platform lifts them off. A chocolate bar wrapper on an offshore rig takes a 100-mile sea voyage to reach a bin, and all of it is written down. Platforms carry a garbage management plan and keep a garbage record book. Placards go up in the working language of the crew. Every movement of waste has an entry. Port state inspectors read those entries, sometimes years later, and the entries have signatures on them. Now go back to the job advert. It said general maintenance and utility duties. It might have listed pumps and compressors. It probably mentioned working at height and shift patterns and the rotation. It did not say that one of the pumps is a living colony of bacteria, or that the colony dies if somebody is careless with a cleaning product on a Tuesday. It did not say that you would sign a legal record every week. It did not say that a government inspector could open that record in 3 years and read your handwriting. It did not say what happens on the worst day of your rotation, the day the helicopter is cancelled, or the news from home is bad. The plant does not care. The sample is still due. The walk to the rail still happens in daylight. That is the difference between the headline and the clause underneath it. The headline is a job title. The clause is that a piece of the ocean is legally your responsibility for 12 hours at a time, and nobody at home will ever ask you about it. Below the accommodation deck, a small tank is quietly breathing, and one signature is the reason it is allowed to. Every job posting has a headline. This was the fine print. Next, why nobody offshore turns a valve without a signed piece of paper. Subscribe so you catch it.